3Rivers Unmanned Aerial Services, as you see. I'm just going to give you a talk a little bit about a little history of commercial drones, not the military ones or anything like that. And a few examples of what I do in this area to help promote this area and show off our beautiful state. So let me so this drawing or photo, probably a painting back in the day, is the first recorded photo or instance of a drone being used, an autonomous flying vehicle. It's in over Venice, when Austria attacked Venice. This was a secret attack. It was in 1849. And I bet they were surprised. So yeah, that was in 1849. And in 1898, Nikola Tesla was testing out his radio-controlled boat for the first time at the New York Pond in Madison Square Garden. Amazing the crowd. He was able to control the lights on the RC boat and make people think that he was either a magician or he was a small monkey in the boat operating everything. And this was the beginning of remote radio-controlled vehicles, aircraft and vehicles, which today, of course, Tesla, the man was a genius. And then in 1907, I can't believe I found this photo, a man named Louis Breguet invented the first quadcopter. And it was with the four rotors, and they rotate in opposite, like you'd have these two do clockwise, these two do counterclockwise, and that way it just won't spin in the air like this. It'll go straight when you try to control it. And that was the earliest attempt to create a physical rotary wing aircraft. It was an uncovered steel frame with a seat for the pilot and a power plant in the center. It was never flown, by the way. Like I said, to eliminate the torque of it just spinning in the air, it did the counter-rotating propellers. 1916, the British developed this radio-controlled airplane. It was the first tested in March of 1917, while the Americans had one called the Kittering Bug. First flew in 1918, although both were very successful in the day. Neither were ever used in the war. And this guy's got a heck of a name. Athenian Omnichan invented this little beauty in 1920. He called it the Omnichan. And it managed to fly a whole 110 feet and established a world record. In the same year, he flew it in a half-mile circle for a whole 7 minutes. At the time this invention was coming out, it was an alternative to the helicopter, because the problem with the helicopter is that the rear rotor plane that keeps it from spinning around in a circle takes up like almost 15 to 20% of the power, but it doesn't produce anything other than just keeping it going straight. And they were trying to come up with an alternative for the power supply. And yes, that's Churchill. And this one was the first inception of the word drone. It's thought that the drone started to be used at this time, inspired by the name of this model called DH-82B Queen Bee radio-controlled drone. Were also manufactured in the United States and used for practice of for target practice and training. In 1938, the first fully successful remote control airplane was flown by this gentleman here. Him and his brother, Bill and Will good. It was at a competition in 1937 where they placed third place with their plane called the White Mystery. The remote control planes were facing serious controllability issues, and they were able to finally fix it. And here we come into these views. This is everything from 38 to 39 to the 2000s. It was all military advancements in the drone. There was no practical commercial use for them really at the time. This gentleman here is Frank Wang. He is the founder of DJI Drone Company. And I found out just recently that DJI stands for D. Wong Innovations, which in American translates into General Innovations. And at the time, he was given a permit by the FAA to build that kind of drone. That's the newest ones he's been using lately. The orange one on the end of the table there is similar to what they first came out with. And the FAA was only issuing 2 permits every year for 8 years at the time. And because of DJI, all the innovation that went into creating what you see over there was developed and brought all around the world. It's one of the most famous drone companies in the world right now. Then we have the, similar to the one on the end, that was called the Phantom 1. In 2013 was released, and it was the first modern gyrocopter with you could attach the camera on it, and you couldn't control the camera. It was up to the drone. You couldn't tilt it up and down. You couldn't focus it. You couldn't do anything with it. But at least you could point the drone in the general direction. You couldn't see what it was taking pictures of. It was just, pot luck what you was going to get. And but that was the very start. That's how we got to where we are today. And similar to those, I'll go talk to you about those in a few minutes. Then we have the consideration of using drones for the delivery methods, pioneered by Amazon and other delivery companies like UPS and FedEx and the other delivery companies have been wanting to, since 2013, to do delivery service by a drone. They're a long ways away from it. And it's not the drone's fault. There's a lot of technical problems with, they need to create, this is gonna sound crazy, but highways in space, in space, not in space, but in airspace, where the drones can travel safely and continuously and not run into each other or interfere with other air traffic that's going on in the areas where they're flying to do these deliveries. The delivery part has come a long way, and that's what they're working on. That's an early concept from Amazon there. And then in 2015, there was the first, was the first consumer drone, which is similar to this one here. And these come with 4K cameras. They can go up to, in 15, they could go up to 3 miles away. You could see what your drone was seeing, so you could fly and take your pictures without interference. And they've come quite a ways, even since 2015. The orange one on the end there is the one I bought, and that was in 2016. And then these drones here, those are from 20 and 21, and these were used during the pandemic to help with distancing and quarantine. They help firefighters and police to monitor areas. Firefighters use a much smaller version with infrared on them, so they can find out how better, safe ways to enter into burning buildings and such. So this is an agricultural drone they use to spread around the farms and such. for pesticides, and that they've been doing for quite some time. And you can see the size of that thing of that guy. It's huge. And there's a lot like that. The forestry departments use them for surveilling their towers and stuff all over the state. I've seen them around in our state quite a bit as well. And this is just an example of some of the sizes of some of these agricultural and drones. This one was used for construction. These drones, they can have these high definition cameras and radar and sonar on them, so they can literally map the whole area and put it in the computers, and they can figure out where to build things or where to have things moved or shifted around, so they can have a better idea of better land management. They also use one similar to the one I have here to inspect towers, electrical towers, and radio towers is a big one, especially out in the Midwest, where you have these radio towers that are thousands of feet high, and I'm not kidding, they're huge. And these drones are used, there's actually rules within the FAA specifically for the use around radio towers, so we can go beyond our limit. For personal drones and commercial drones, you are only allowed to go 400 feet in the air above where you are. They changed the rules for towers and such, so you could go 400 feet above the tower, but you can only go 300 feet away from the tower, so you're restricted to travel at those distances. But they were very helpful in checking on the rust, the linkages to the cables and stuff on the radio towers, and such as that. And these are other examples. You got, they were checking on the windmills, checking bridges, and most of these are all done, except for this one down here, are all done with infrared and high definition cameras, so they can zoom right in and see what, maybe if there's something wrong. You know, old cooling towers, and down here would be bridge inspection, which I do bridge. Roof inspection, which is something else that I do as well. Now, I put this one in here because this is what's new, what's coming with the delivery service. This is a company called Zipline, and I'm not doing ads for Zipline. But they have these drones, they're all modular. And the cone has where the battery pack is. All of this stuff can come off. And they shoot these drones like they catapult a ship off a ship, in the Navy does. And they'll fly to these remote areas and drop these packages, and they're mostly used for hospitals. The hospital can call up and say somebody needs a blood transfusion. They come into the hospital and need a blood transfusion, or they need blood for our operation. They'll call Zipline, and that will be there within an hour for them. And they can get like 75 miles away, the range. And it'll go over the target, drop the box where it's all packed and safe, and then it'll just turn around and go right back to where it was. And they just catch it right through the midair. It'll fly along, and they have a line going across, and they'll just catch it, and it'll just drop, and they'll turn it around, put a new battery back in, put a new package back in, and send it right back out again. They just turn around and go and go and go. And they're very popular, not popular, but very highly used in Africa, because you have such remote areas in their cities and towns out there, and they're highly used. They're also using them, I know there's a company in Wisconsin that is using them as well, but they're going to be trying to use them as a commercial delivery service. Some of the concept drawings are a little iffy, but they look futuristic, let's put it that way. And if they pull it off, more power to them, because it sounds really interesting. But yeah, I've seen a couple of videos they put out, and it's really interesting.
Seems like something that would work in good weather, but yeah, I don't know about
there's several for that kind of one. Yes, you're right. It would still get to where it got to go, because they're very robust. But the new one they're coming out with, it'll do like around here we wanted deliveries. The big delivery is with just dropping a box with a parachute on it. Of course, out in Africa, it's a little bit different. You know, it's open and everything. The trees aren't so much. The new one they're concepting in Wisconsin, it will hover over an area. It has a lot of props and forward and back props all over it. And it actually will drop it down on cables. And then it will, it drops it right off the ground and then just brings the cables right back up. And their biggest technology is the quietness of the motors they've done, to whereas you can hardly hear them. It's amazing what they've done, just because of the way they manufactured the props on all of the systems. But they've tested it in some heavy weather out in Wisconsin, and it seems to work just fine. So, and this was a while ago, so I don't know how far they've gotten since then. So it's really amazing what they've done. These are the ones that you see, or you don't see. They use in making movies. The camera on these are actually controlled by a separate person. So you have one person will run the drone and get it where they want it to go and get it to do what they want it to do, while another gentleman's on another remote control controlling the camera, so you can get the zoom ins and the pans and all this other stuff while they're making movies. Like you see them where they'll chase vehicles through streets and stuff like that in the newer movies. They're all done with drones now. It's really an amazing thing. So, yeah, I like that drone. That's a nice drone. So now I'm going to talk about what I do. Any questions?
What are the rules and regulations as to where you can fly those around, say, the library?
The only rules and regulations, it's up to me. There's nothing really stopping me except for height. I can't be in amongst the public. Like I can't, fly around us. If you ever saw the photos I did of the Whoopie Pie Festival I did last year, I could only stay 100 feet or more above the crowd. I couldn't fly down or over the crowd and run around that way. Those are mostly the regulations for that. As far as property-wise, there really isn't. I mean, because it'd be like trying to tell an airplane pilot you can't fly over this piece of property. I realize the government does it because, Area 51 and all that other stuff, but that's different.
And airports you can't go to.
Right, no, airports are highly regulated. Half of your test when I take my pilot's license is all about airport navigation. Because when I took my license, as I was doing it, I kind of figured out that I'm literally taking a pilot's license so that I can fly. I know what the pilot is thinking on an airplane, so I can stay out of his way. So that's kind of how it works. And it was really amazing. It was a great learning tool. I loved it. It was great. Very technical though. But yeah, there was certain, I can't fly around within a certain circle away from an airport. But nowadays we have an app, a couple of them on my phone that I use to figure out where and how high I can fly in a certain area away from the airport.
Okay, that's handy.
Oh, very,
Yeah.
very.
What about law enforcement? They must be using these.
Some do. Around here, not so much. My drone company, the one I use here, these are all tail drones. They're not DJIs. They're all tail. They're a company out of Washington State. They're an American company, but they are really their main focus is law enforcement and search and rescue and firefighting and all this stuff. They have a plane they call the Argos that would just fit in here, and it's a remote control plane that you can literally pack up and put in my truck.
I have a feeling they must have used the drones, that recent escapee that they tracked down.
Probably. Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, they would have. Yeah. Because especially with the newer ones where you get the infrared, you get up high enough with that infrared, and you can see all kinds of stuff moving around. So yeah, I bet Yeah.
Not only dogs on the ground anymore.
No, believe me, I wish I'd had some. I've had so many calls of people. When I went looking for one lady called me up, she'd lost her horse.
Oh,
And I'm like, you know, it was full summer, full leaves, and where they were telling me it was probably lost, I'm like, you know, the odds of me seeing this, it's very tiny. And then I had somebody recently, they misplaced a child. They found the child, it was buried within that day, but somebody misplaced their child, and they asked me to come see it, and I'm like, I could try, you know, but it really isn't much hope. Another lady, a couple earlier in June, a lady lost a couple of her dogs over by Savoy somewhere, and she asked me to come look for it. I called and talked to her and told her, you know, the odds of me seeing your dogs in this kind of canopy. If it was winter or spring with no leaves in the tree, there's a good chance I can have no problem finding your animal if we got a good idea of where to look. But in the summer, it's just the coverage, the foliage is just
especially
so
this
hard.
summer, it's been pretty lush.
Yes, it has. Yes, it's been beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's so frustrating because you want to help. I really do. You know, I really want to go help. But so I right up the front, I'm like, there's really a low chance of me being able to help.
So you think infrared would have
Oh gosh, yes. Gosh, yes.
gone
Especially-
right through the canopy and everything?
Yeah. Oh yes. Yes, it will. Yeah.
Oh.
Because the body temperature is so much different than the
Yeah.
temperature around the canopy. So yeah, without a doubt, you can see it. Yeah. These are just this is the property photo. This is kind of what I can see with my drone. This is just someone's property, the one in the middle here. They asked me to come out and do something for them. This is mostly going to be property photos. There is a few in here I did for real estate because I do work for real estate around the area as well. This is one of my earliest property photos. The funny story about this one is she had me come out and do it while the husband wasn't away because it was a present for her husband. And I'm like, no problem. So I went out, flew around, almost got stuck in the trees, got the photo done, got it to her, and then the next day she come to get it and pay me for it, and she's like, my husband saw the photo, and he goes, if you'd only told me, I cleaned up the yard better. So I try to, like, when I first go to look at it, I'm like, so you sure you don't want to have the yard cleaned? I don't want to insinuate anything, but. Anybody recognize this?
Is that ironwork?
Very good. It is. A lot of people don't. So yeah, that's the ironworks. I usually have a photo here, but I don't have one with me. And these were the Canuskeag, not Canuskeag, the Quebec River route canoe races. I've done a couple of 3 of those. This is one from that year.
Never lost a drone in the water.
That's fortunate. These, except for the one on the end, these know where they are. And they know they're amazingly powerful. And batteries are smarter than me by 1,000-fold. They know how far away they are and how much power they're going to need to get back to where I am. So I'll be out flying and it'll be like, I'm coming home. Because my battery's low and I only have so much time and power to come back. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So yeah, and they also have all the they have all these black dots all around them. They're on the bottom as well, along with these 2 things, which are sonar, and these are landing lights. That's for night flying, which I don't do a whole lot. But they know exactly where they are. They don't get lost. They don't get stuck in trees. Except for this one. This one has the sensors as well, in the front, back, and the bottom, but not on the sides. And if you're flying sideways like this, like I was doing last spring, pine tree, reach right out and grab it.
It's interesting that you say sonar on that other one. I
Yeah.
thought sonar had to be underwater.
No, it's just like radar.
Okay.
Same idea, but it uses sound to get it more accurate. It's mostly used for landing.
I see.
So when it gets down close, it kind of maps out where it is. When these take off, within the first 10 seconds, when they take off, you set up and set. It does it automatically. And it maps out that area right there. So that when it's out flying and you want it to come home, but you don't want to fly it home, there's a button you push and it just says come home. And it will come home and it'll land right in that spot. I've done it, landed on my truck, I don't know how many times, right on the back of my truck. It's amazing how accurate it is. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's still, it still works really well.
So they all have GPS built in? Is that
Oh, yes.
on that one?
Yeah, GPS is mostly in the controllers. The controller is where your GPS is hanging out. And it's, and I've run into a lot of issues. They'll still fly without it, but it isn't like to. Like when I was flying, was inside a building, and it doesn't, this GPS inside buildings don't work very well. So you really have to be on your toes because it'll fly and they'll kind of, if you fly it forward and you go to stop, it'll just kind of stop. So you want to make sure you're ready, going to be right on your toes where it is. So if anybody doesn't know, this is the Commons building down the street here
Oh.
in their stairwell. And that was probably that far from the ceiling. It's just sitting there and I'm going, just don't move. These are property photos I was doing for a property owner. This is where they're gonna be building their home, and they wanted to know about this area out here, where there's swamp, but there was also all kinds of areas they wanted to know about that. I've done a couple of properties. Anybody know? Shoot, can't think of his first name. I almost want to say David Rideout. He's a lumber guy. He has the place over where the railroad tracks are going towards Milo. Is that old? It used to be the railroad yard. He had me go do a property out there, and just so he knew what the lay of the land was, so when he could go in and cut it, he could see where he's going to be putting his roads. He could tell what wood was worth going in for. He loved it. He thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He liked it a lot. And property photos for people who want their house taken pictures of so they can give them to their families. And landmarks. That's the Lowe's Bridge on the way to Guilford. I've done that a couple times. This was the winter scene. And this, nope. This is Providence Junction. So that's the new home office for the Northeast region for CP. And they actually called me up to do this. And I broke a few rules to get this picture. Because if I had taken it at my limit of 400 feet, it would have taken me 16 pictures to make this picture. Where when in actuality there's 3 pictures that make this picture. I had to stitch them all together. And but that was quite a feat. I liked doing that. That was a good project, and they liked it a lot. So much so that I delivered them the picture, which they got it in a size like this. And the next day they called me up and says, "Yeah, can we get 3 more of those?" And I'm like, "Yes, you can." And this is an island, which was a real estate job. It's at it's Boyce. And if you ever go to the island, the landing, it's a Boyce, and look out, there's a little island just off to the right, and that was it. The real estate called me up and says, "Can you get to that island from the landing?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Because and that's my job. Each each of the 3 drones that I've had over the years. I started in 2015 with a very small drone, thanks to my mom. She got me and my uncles all this drone for Christmas one year. And all I could do was take a picture. And no control, you could just fly it up. This little bit, it was this big. It was pretty rinky-dink. It was probably a Walmart special. And I flew out in the backyard. You couldn't go more than 100 feet. And you definitely don't want to fly it in the wind. Because if you heard stories about drones that fly away, that was the kind of drone that does that. And I took a picture of it, got it in, had the little hard drive in it, had to pull that out and take it to your computer and look at it and stuff. And the minute I saw that, I'm like, I can see something here where I can really make this area look good. I could, all the stuff that we have around here, you got, Ottawa Trestle, you got Cantard and Ironworks, you got our rivers, you got our houses, our homes, our areas, our towns. So I really saw the potential in that, just that one photo of my backyard. And that's when I just started doing my research, and that's when I decided to get the old Evo. It's not even Evo, what's it called? I forget what it's called. It's been a long time since I've used it. It's been in storage. So I can't use it anymore because the batteries, they can't buy the batteries anymore for it. And but it only had a limit. I could only get about a mile away.
When did you buy that?
2016.
And it's obsolete.
Yep. Oh yeah, it was obsolete in like 3 years.
Wow.
Because the technology was just really, going. Then there was one in between that one and that one. This is called the Evo 2 Pro. There was one in between that, it was called just the Evo, and it was slightly ahead of the other one. It did a 4K camera. You could get up to 3 miles with it without much interference. The really unique thing about it was on the controller. And this is the controller for my Evo Pro. This screen here, I can actually use it without my phone, so it will actually show me what the drone sees. But if I don't use it, if I use it with my phone, it gives me information about how far away it is, how high it is, how much battery life there is on this and on the drone. So it was really a game changer for me when I could see that. Because you could be going along and you're like, oh, I want to get a picture of this, or there's something going on, I want to get my drone up real quick. I didn't want to have to get my phone out, hook it up. You could just go up and do it. You wouldn't have to worry about that. So that was really handy. And I've had to use it a couple of times. Yeah, and this is the controller for my old one. I know, right? Let's hope we can give his name. No, it's not gonna give his name. So yeah, I got a bunch of photos of videos of that at the house. So I learned a lot with that, and that took some really great stuff and a lot of great videos. Can we try doing YouTube on me?
Yeah, we should be able to pull YouTube up.
So while I do this, any other questions?
So the middle one now, Blaine, is the one you use most?
Yes, that's my flagship, I call it.
Workhorse. And I don't know, you might want to do Chrome, the
Okay.
browser. I think you did,
Oh yeah, I don't think Edge
Yeah.
is set up on that one.
but I think that we have it, usually our library ones are Chrome.
Yeah, I'll let you do that.
Yeah, sorry.
No problem. Yeah, this is like my flagship. It has a 6K camera.
Oh, wow.
I can go up to 5 miles away with this one.
5 miles?
5 miles. If you know Scudic Lake, if you know where Nice's Landing is at Scudic Lake, I can go from Nice's Landing all the way to the other side of the lake. And operate it, and you can see everything. from this. Like I said, it has a 6K camera. It flies for up to, this one will go about 40 minutes on a good battery. As long as there's no wind, it's not fighting the wind or anything, and I'm not doing stuff stupidly. And it'll last about 40 minutes. This would barely last 20. And like I said, I think it would only give me about a mile if I was lucky. This little cutie is my newest invention. I call it baby. This also has a 4K camera. It can also go up to 4 miles away. And it'll still last over 30 minutes on a battery that big. It's amazing what this little thing can do.
Yeah.
It's much quicker and snappier. And that's one I used for the interior of this photo shoot to the inside because you can get it in the tighter spots. But and that's what I got it for, was to do real estate indoors, to go through people's houses and do like walking tours, as they call it. And so I've used that a couple of times.
How long does it take to charge your batteries?
For the little one, those are probably maybe half hour, 45 minutes. The bigger one, they can go up to a couple, 3 hours, just because they last so long.
Do you carry spares?
Oh, lots of them, yeah. Yeah, I have 5 for this one. Actually, I have 5 for that one now, so I just bought 2 more. And I used to have 3 for that one. Here we go.
Typically, what is the range of the cost of the drone?
The cost of the drone, you can get it much cheaper. Mine were all, the old one originally was like $700. My flagship one, the big one, that was $1,800. And the little one was $700 as well. So the little one, which can do pretty much equal to what my middle one can do, is about $700. And those come with the remote. You get a battery and a carrying case. It all comes with it.
Have you ever had any problems with your lithium batteries as far as overheating or smoking
I had one of the old drone.
Yeah.
Had one that blew up a little bit on me, and I had to discontinue using it. But the company was really good. I gave them a call because it wasn't that old at the time, and told them what it was, and they sent me a brand new one.
Do you use the safety bags?
I haven't never had to use them. For my flagship one, I actually have a charger that it's about that big around, square actually, and about that tall, and I can load 4 batteries on it at once.
It's like a multiple station.
Yeah, yeah. And the little one has a similar multiple station. I'm not real crazy about it because it works. But it's just a bar about this big, and probably that wide, about that tall, that you can just hook the batteries onto and just stand them up and let them charge. Let's see if I can find myself. Oh yeah, it's ads. I don't get ads, so I'm not used to that.
Skip it. Yep, skip.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not one more. This was of the canoe race last year on the Sabac. And this was I had my GoPro, and I had just strapped it to a tree and filmed it as everybody had gone by. It was just going by. while I was out flying with my other drone. And this was, while that was filming, this is what I was filming with my drone.
So it just comes up on your phone, what you're seeing is on your phone, right?
Yep. Yep, I usually have a small tablet that I used to have, but I stupidly forgot it, which attaches to this as well. I have an adapter that I have on. So I can probably get set up for the demo,
Yeah,
and y'all can take a look at the drones and stuff, and take a look at my photos.
yeah.
I'll leave this running in the background. Oh yeah, also, as far as photo wise, is that I'm also able to make photos like this,
Yep.
which is basically this photo with this. And the great part is about these cameras, that this one, especially the 6K, is that no matter what size photo you take, you blow it out, but it stays crystal clear.
It's like a wide angle lens.
Yeah.
Almost, well, I make it that way by just telling the photos.
Using the clarity.
So do you have a company that you work with for these photos, or
I make it myself.
you make all that yourself?
Yeah.
So
I
you,
print them all out in my own home.
Must have a big printer.
It's a good size one, but they're only 13 inches wide there. And I also have these if you want to look at them. These are it's a portfolio while I get my drone set up.
Oh,
Go
wow.
through it,
Yes.
see what photos I
Thank
have. And just to be selfish, all of these are for sale. If anybody wants to buy them.
That's good to know, thank you.
That's also.